Hallo miteinander, I'm Geshady6 and this is another Touhou fan game, but no platformer, RPG or whatever else this time. No, we are going back to the roots and playing a shoot 'em up. Maihana Aoimakyou, conveniently subtitled Uniting Barrage Action, is much closer to the official Touhou games than many of our past picks. In fact, this game's story is a slightly altered retelling of the embodiment of Scarlet Devil. We'll be playing on normal mode as homing type Remu. Homing type tends to be good for beginners in these kinds of games, and I don't claim to be exceptionally skilled at uniting Barrage Action. I have not yet seen the true ending on normal mode. By the way, I've edited out the first stage as well as the first bonus stage, because I wanted to give you impressions of this game in a short single video, and the mid-game of Uniting Barrage Action is much more representative of it. I think I've said it in every Touhou shooter I've shown, that the first stage is always just a warm-up exercise for loosening those stiff fingers. We're currently in the mansion's library, a stage which is special in the way that it's the only one in the game to create the illusion of scrolling downwards. Most go from left to right, one late in the game goes upwards. Said illusion becomes somewhat real in that most of the enemies appear from below. Well, what chaos did we just unleash there? It was the most defining gameplay mechanic of Uniting Barrage Action, the dash tackle. You can use it whenever the colored bar in the lower left has filled enough to turn yellow. It is somewhat of an emergency bomb. You are completely invincible while the effect lasts, and you will delete all the bullets you touch. It's also important in another way. No boss pattern can be ended just by continued shooting. You have to tackle into your opponent once their hit points are low enough. The rather short stage is already over, now we face a very sleepy Patchouli. Through my limited anime vocabulary, I know she mistook Remu for Sakuya in her drowsiness, who kindly corrected her that she is not actually Sakuya. Lord knows I can't read kanji, I hear it thanks to the game being fully voice acted. Uniting Barrage Action does sport pretty high production value for doujin standards. Artwork, models, music and voice work, on a technical level, all is very impressive. Patchouli has 4 patterns in store, 2 non-spells and 2 spell cards. Capturing spell cards is really important, more on that later. That was a well-timed tackle, did just enough damage. A tackle doesn't need to land on 0 boss HP, it just needs to be low enough. Here's a pretty cool spell card. It's got a gooey name, Jellyfish Princess. The bullet bubble around us is very restrictive, but it will move a little with our possession, with delay however. You shouldn't move too quick and too far of course. Next up, we have another dense, straightforward bullet spray. This game does have the typical focus mode for slow movement, as well as a small visible hitbox for yourself. It makes what we just saw much less terrifying. A flashy sequence always announces a boss's final spell, and it should have been a reminder for me, as that death was unnecessary. Yeah, the idea for this one is to stick close to Patchouli, because the left side is a dead zone. Quite the beginner's trap, or one for people like me with a bad memory. It's not that dangerous a spell if you take the proper position. The orange bullets don't move too fast or in a complicated manner, and there's little else to watch out for. That tackle was unfortunately a little early. The tackle bar only fills up slowly over time, but even a reckless usage like that one can be worth a try and won't hurt you too badly, as you will get a one-time instant refill whenever a boss is fully out of health. Patchouli has finally been defeated. She is definitely easier in this game than she is in Touhou 6. It should be that way because this was only stage 2. So, I guess we're going on to the third stage now, right? As if. This game, you know, has a really peculiar structure. Our next destination is Extra Stage 2, and that is no edit this time. Extra stages in Uniting Barrage Action are not to be confused with the more post-gamey extra stages of the official Touhou games. I called it a bonus stage before, as the idea is that you need to qualify for them, which you do by capturing at least one spell card from a boss. No death, no bombs. You do have real emergency bombs, not just your tackle. We may have failed against Patchouli's final spell, but we did perfectly on Jellyfish Princess. That is why we are where we are now. Time for a fantasy seal. Might have seemed like a waste to use a screen clearing tool here, but I wouldn't say it was. Since you want to make it to all 3 extra stages, bombs are effectively banned in a lot of situations. So don't be too stingy with them. So many enemies from all directions, it is a good thing we can fire backwards. This is done pretty comfortably with 2 different shot buttons. It is a crafty feature on its own, but I think some people complained about there being too many systems in Uniting Barrage Action already. You can always argue that less is more. We even have a 3rd type of bomb, which we haven't used yet. I call that one a soft bomb, compared to our fantasy seal, which would be a hard bomb. Nitori is guarding our path. The extra stage bosses are all guests from games younger than Touhou 6, and no matter when, I don't remember Nitori ever waving a whole cucumber around for everyone to see. I believe the obscenity of this was not unintentional. I think even Remu might be calling her out on that here. It would certainly explain why the little Kappa gets all loud and angry. I could be wrong. Maybe she's just accusing Remu of being the Scarlet Mist's source. What I do know is that savagely chomping off a cucumber in public is neither lewd nor sexy. No man wants to imagine the implications of that. The first pattern is very fast and possibly the most terrifying so far. It may trigger a twitch reaction like it did to me here. That was the mentioned soft bomb, which only deletes bullets in a small radius around you. Overall, it works a little like the bombs in Mountain of Faith, though not completely. You'll only have it at full power and it'll deduct 50 power points on use. Regrettable, but getting back to full power is relatively easy in this game. The soft bomb also won't fail spell cards, which is great. This spell card is either called Cruise or Cross-Flacking. It's not always easy to make out the voice actor's accent when they're going English. Regardless, it's a really easy pattern. I've dropped a few hints here and there on the strengths and weaknesses of Uniting Barrage Action. The general consensus seems to be that people are actually a little disappointed in it. I've heard it called the Touhou fan game, where design quality and gameplay are furthest apart from the mesmerizing technical side. Personally, I think it's alright, fun in doses, and it does a few interesting things. But it seems to have something missing that shoot-em-ups by Zun, for example, have. I can't describe what exactly it is. Maybe there are too many systems in it after all, or maybe stages could be more interesting. I think you'll get the most enjoyment out of it if you don't let the hype of the first impression completely overtake you. It's no bad game by any means, just not everything about it feels right. I know I'm thankful for one thing it brought, this music track, best one in the game. There's one more detail to the dash tackle. The more shots you absorb with it, the more power the blow will have. That last one wouldn't have been strong enough on its own initially, but we stalled for time and ate a few more bullets, so it worked out in the end. Again, about people not being too positive on Uniting Barrage Action, there are some, but I'm certain there's also a good number of enthusiasts for it, because it is confirmed that the game will get a port for PlayStation 4 at some point, at least in Japan. We know nowadays that this does make a Western release possible. Next level to play would be Stage 3 now, but I think that's enough for a basic gameplay demonstration. Stopping now totally has nothing to do with me generally sucking at Stage 3. Nah. A few more things to round off on. The way to the true ending of this game lies in qualifying for all 3 extra stages. Only then will you be allowed to fight Remilia. The last thing I want to show you is the model viewer, just because of how nice they look. All of these have alternative poses, and when selecting one, you can also move the camera and zoom in closer. Quite a few to choose from. Let us pick Remilia as an example. I may not be the biggest fan of her, but they modeled her quite nicely. I especially like the position where she sits on air in her big concealing dress. You know, I feel like looking at what is under that dress. Let's get naughty and do it. Denied. I did not edit this in. I know some YouTubers have to do that for their not safe for work games. Whenever you find a risky angle, Sakuya, the perfect and elegant cock-block, is there to thwart your plans. She'll do this for everyone, not just her mistress, if you're wondering. Oh, this is the best. She's so adorable too. Even if one doesn't enjoy this game, anyone must agree that censorship Sakuya gives it a right to exist. With that, I'm Gashady6, this was Uniting Barrage Action. Bis bald!